So we'll shoot it over to Margo in just a second for best practices for virtual conferences and meetings. Margo has been in the productivity and organizing industry for over 15 years, and she has gone through numerous trainings for her work with the accredited program, Institute of Applied Coaching. She is a certified organizer coach, and she received her specialist certificate through the National Association of Productivity and Organizing. And she's here to talk to us for the next 30 minutes about how to deal with all our webinar needs.
Yes. Thank you, Avi. Again, I'm Margo Crawford with Wave Productivity. I'm a productivity coach, and I help people get more organized, focused, and productive in their offices. It's been so good to hear from you all talking about how working remotely has helped you become more productive. I noticed someone in the chat comment saying that they stopped their hourly commute, and it's so wonderful to hear people kind of grabbing back some of that time that they've taken in commuting or other things to focus in on work and family. One thing that I'd like to see in the next couple of months happen is, how is work going to infiltrate our homes, and where is our work-life balance? I think this is all new, but as we look to the future, if our work has come into our homes, making sure that we have enough work-life balance. So just watch for that over the next couple of months, now that work is in your home. I'm so glad you're here today. It means that you are being socially responsible and you are working to flatten the curve. So thank you so much for staying home. So we're going to be talking about virtual meetings. First, we're going to start off with the basics. I'm talking the basic. And here's why. I've been on a ton of different virtual calls this week, and I've seen all kinds of weird things happening. And so I want to stop that so we can actually start getting to discussing business and doing the work. We're also going to talk about a few advanced techniques, and I want you to do this with me. So as I'm repositioning my camera lens and the things that I'm talking about, join in with me, practice this now so that we can get it all covered. And tomorrow when we head into our first virtual meeting, we'll be sure that we're looking presentable and professional and really great. Now, some of us may have childcare or even pets. That's a big shift for us as well. I feel like it's something that we need to embrace. If children walk in the room, we need to be the models for them of what this looks like. And of course, dogs and cats always brighten our day. They brighten my day. So I hope that you'll share those because they're so cute. But also kind of minimize distractions. So know when you can do that and when you can't, right? So the first thing, we've been washing our hands. We have been wiping down our surfaces. When was the last time you wiped down your camera lens? Yeah. So grab a cloth, anything that you have. I have these great computer wipes, and actually wipe down your lens so that we can see you clearly. I'll do mine right now. So just keeping it clean here, right? Make sure that the cloth that you use isn't abrasive at all and that you're not using any kind of harsh chemicals. Second, our format has changed, so we're all working remotely, but meetings are staying the same. And what I've noticed this week happening in meetings is that there aren't any agendas, we're not following them, and I know that we all need to discuss this, but we're all talking about the same kind of thing, talking about what's going on, that we're stuck at home. We get that. So again, like, continue to talk that through, but make sure that your meetings are really effective. Start sending out agendas in advance, like 24 hours in advance. Because when we have 24 hours advance notice of an agenda, we can also start looking at what are the ways that we're contributing? What do we need to say in the meeting? And just making sure that we're following along. Another thing I'm noticing is that virtual meetings are lasting hours long, and the format may not be set up for that. It's a little bit more distracting. We don't have the body language to help us. So this is a great opportunity to look at how you can shorten your meetings. How can we get them down from an hour to 45 minutes, 45 minutes to half an hour, and really just kind of bang it out. You also want to make sure that the rhythm is a little bit different here, right? So people might be interrupting or talking over each other. What we need to start doing is slowing down our conversations. Just a little bit, just enough so that other people can jump in if we need to. One of the things we need to start doing is pausing a little bit between thoughts or between sentences so that people have the chance to actually engage. Other ways to engage, Avi brought up that poll earlier in the call. So adding polls to the meetings that you're having, just giving a clear thumbs up. When someone says, "Can you hear me?" straight away, give that thumbs up, let people know. Wave to people as they're coming on so that they feel welcome. I just want to check in with you. Are there any great techniques that you've had for engagement that seem to have worked in the virtual meetings that you're in?
I think screen sharing is a cool way to make it seem like you're together and in the same room as well, especially like when you're in a workshop or like a webinar or something like that. It's cool, I think.
Great.
I think when Sydney sang during our team meeting today, that was fun.
Oh, sweet.
In my room.
Wonderful.
I think it's not necessarily something that is just for online meetings, but we use a lot of Google Docs so we can share documents and kind of make changes to things in real time. And I think that really helps us work remotely. And then when we do come together in an online meeting, you know, all of our comments are kind of already there, so we can kind of address them together.
Amy, I think that brings up a good point of what are the norms that you're creating in your business. Those norms have to happen quickly. So are you all using Slack? Are you all using Google Docs? How are you naming documents so that everyone can find them and use them quickly and easily? So start thinking of those things as you're building this foundation. I mean, for all of us, it's pretty much started on Monday. We've really come together in a great way to get on board. But thinking about how you're going to integrate a lot of the tools that you have. I think Dave was talking about how he's been on WebEx today and GoToMeeting and Zoom and all these different platforms. We all need to know the basics of each platform so that we can be successful. So I want to start with some setups for virtual meetings. When you get on a call, you'll see a join video, and you can click on that to join the video. Underneath it is a way to test your audio. So if you're unsure, can people hear me? You can test audio. You can also do it now. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the mute and a microphone icon. There's something here called, at the bottom is called audio settings. If you click on that, you'll see that you can test your speaker and your microphone. Another thing that you might want to try, in the checkboxes here, there's press and hold space key to temporarily unmute yourself. If you check that box, what it will allow you to do is if you just need to make a quick comment, you can press the space bar, make your comment, and then hop back off into mute. So great little tool there to use. You also want to make sure that you have really good lighting. I was lucky enough last year to purchase some professional lights, you know, the ones with the big umbrellas. So You can get those, they're fairly cheap, under $50, but just make sure that you have proper lighting so that you're not in the dark, that we can actually see your face. Make sure that there's not a window behind you, because that light can actually create a silhouette where we're not seeing your facial expressions. One good thing is that you want side lighting and front lighting and lighting overhead. So just bring all of those kind of concepts into play when you're using lighting so that people can actually see you. A way to kind of address the camera. So I'm going to show you a few things. I've seen a lot of this with people's ceilings or kind of up people's noses. And I know that some of you are moving in between your office or bedroom or whatever, but just make sure that this setup actually supports us looking at you. I've also seen people who head down, I'm watching the top of their head. So be careful of that as well. Just like you would in a meeting where you're sitting at a conference table, what you want to have is about from mid chest, making sure that you show your shoulders and your head. You don't want to really be like that big fat head in the camera. You want to sit back a little bit. And sometimes to actually engage, you may want to move forward so that people see you. And the body language is there of, I'm going to speak now, or I'm going to talk, or raise your hand to actually talk. And there's also a button down below that allows you to raise your hand virtually so that you can speak and the host will know that. So kind of adjust what you're doing, adjust your seating if you need to so that you're showing up in a really great way. You also want to make sure, and I have this problem too, of slouching. So sitting up nice and tall, that's going to help you out just ergonomically. Now, before the call got started, we were talking about different backgrounds. I want you all to try this out. It's kind of fun, but it's very distracting if you're doing it in a meeting. So if you go to right down at the bottom of your left-hand screen, you click on the arrow and you go to video settings. You can actually change your virtual background. So you can be in San Francisco. Now notice what's happening right now. Because of my skin tone, you can see the picture through me and it's really kind of freaky. You don't want to show up like this for a meeting. You can have space, green grass. You can even have a background logo if you want to. Try different things out. And make sure that you choose your background before the call so that it is there. And also know that sometimes when you sit back too far, you will fade into the background. So watch for that as well. For some of you, you may want to consider putting up your own logo. What is your branding? When I put up my branding, it actually started to take the logo and put it through my eyes, kind of like what you saw earlier, and through my hair. So it's not a background that I want. This is actually my office, and the branding that I have, if you notice, I have a little Wave Productivity banner in the back. You might also want to think, if you're really representing your company, showing up in your branding colors. So we were talking earlier about how some people were heading to work in their pajamas. That's all great and groovy if you want to get comfy, but if you're struggling with being productive, or you know that this is an important day for you, it is important to get back into the routine of how you would naturally and normally get to work and get in the office. So get dressed if you need to, take off the slippers and actually put on shoes. These are tiny little things, but they make all the difference in managing your workday. And we have to really kind of shift our mindsets around that. If you do choose to use your natural background like I'm using, You may want to consider cleaning it up a little bit, making it a little bit more polished. Avi was saying earlier, we should all just embrace everyone's backgrounds. But then he said, but I had laundry in the background. So just be mindful if you do share your background, what that looks like. Another thing that I've seen with backgrounds is people are actually using videos. I was on a call today where the video was someone who was petting their rabbit. Okay, no lie, it was a video of someone petting a bunny. Not cool. Make sure that the background isn't one that's a video where it's moving, because that's distracting as well. In a call last week, there was someone who had colors going on in the background. This is not a disco. This is your work, and this is a business. So show up in a really appropriate way. And also know that you are modeling this for your children. Now that schools are going virtual, they're asking students to not take class in bed, to really like sit up in a chair, get dressed, groom themselves, show up like they're going to school. You need to model this for your children if it's happening in your home. You also want to make sure that you close all of your tabs. Many of us are dealing with different tabs. You have email up, documents up, close all those so they're not distracting. I promise you, they will taunt you and you will want to go and check on things. The best thing to do is to just shut it down. And also know, people are watching you. So I've watched people who, they just sort of seem distracted all of a sudden. There's a flicker that happens on their face, and it's because they're surfing the net and switching between different windows. So if we all want to use and embrace virtual meetings, we all need to make sure that we're staying focused in them. And like I said, it may feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. I'm sure this week you've seen some really odd, maybe even grooming habits. People who are shoving a sandwich into their mouths. Don't be that person. You can turn off your video and your picture will come up. That brings me to a really good point. If you haven't set up your profile on Zoom or any of the other platforms, you're going to need to do that. So making sure that you have a headshot or a profile picture, a picture on your profile is really important. When you first log into Zoom, you'll have your profile there and you can make the changes. Another thing that you'll want to do is add in your full name. It's, as we do virtual networking, it has been increasingly difficult for me to follow up with people if they don't have their full name there. And what I did in my profile is in the first name field, I added in my full name, Margo Crawford. And in the last name field, I added in my title, productivity coach. So that way, when I'm on a networking virtual call, people know what I do and they know my name. This also shifts the way that we handle networking and meeting people. You're going to need to write down names and then link up with them on LinkedIn or some other platform that you use for managing names and getting information. So there's lots of people on the call today. Who is it that you want to stay in touch with? Make sure you connect with them. It's a big shift for us. We usually are handing over our business cards and times have changed really quick. So I want to talk about some advanced settings that you can do. If you want to look really great, add a little bit of color to your face, you can go down into the left-hand setting where it says stop video, and the arrow is there. go to video settings, and down in the area that says my video, there's an area there that says touch up my appearance. If you click on that, what it will do is really add some color. It won't wash you out as much. It softens your appearance. It makes your teeth a whole lot brighter and you looking a whole lot prettier and handsome. So just an added little technique, an advanced technique that you can use. We talked about using the space key if you are muting and unmuting really quickly, and you can do that in audio settings. If you have reoccurring meetings, in the section of when you sign in, you can schedule reoccurring meetings for yourself. That way you're not missing them. And if you're creating staff meetings that are happening daily, a lot of people are doing some daily huddles or accountability challenges. That's a great way to be reminded. Make sure a few things that you are in the correct time zone and that you're using AM and PM in the right way. So you don't want to show up for a 9 o'clock AM meeting or be reminded of it at 9 PM. Then you've missed the meeting. And I think now more than ever, hosts need to really be engaging and interactive. So Avi has done a really good job of that, and he's a great model of that. But if you're in a meeting and it just doesn't seem like there is someone who's leading that meeting, you can be the person that steps in to do that. So lead that meeting, get people on an agenda, and talking through whatever you need to talk through. One thing that that may be a change in the next few weeks that you may want to consider that seems to be trending. If you have the pro version or the business version of Zoom, also the education version of Zoom, you can create reports of the people who have attended. What that means is when you're signing in, you may want to give yourself a good 5 minutes to sign in beforehand, because there'll be a prompt that will ask for your name and email information. And from that prompt, what hosts can do is gather up all of the colleagues and people who have been on the call and then send that information to you. So see if that trends over the next couple of weeks or months, and know that you may need to hop on calls. At least give yourself at least a good 5 minutes, even if it's just to set up the cameras that we talked about setting up and making sure that you're looking professional. I think we've all had to change things very quickly and swiftly, and you all have done a great job of doing that. Showing up here to this meeting and showing up at Venture Cafe in a new way, I think what this is going to allow us to do is actually shift the way we work, the way we do business. I'm so happy to see people from all over the country joining us. We wouldn't have had that if we just stayed in Venture Cafe Providence and did our own little networking thing. So what I want to do is welcome you to virtual meetings and welcome you actually to the world, because we're going to be seeing more people around the world joining us. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Margo. It was lovely to hear all these pieces of advice. I think there's a couple questions that people had. One that I'm pulling up in the chat. It said, when I have meetings live, I use a parking lot, a little box to put ideas that are off topic. That way people can see their idea, but I don't go to it until the end of the meeting after our objectives have been addressed. Any advice of how to do something similar in a web format? And that's from Julie.
Sure, I think in a web format, you can capture those parking lot issues in the chat section and then work your way through those chats to make sure. And again, like, not everything has to be all technology all the time. We can have a pen and paper and just be scratching it out, just like we did in a meeting. In fact, sometimes we're able to kind of ingrain the information more when we are taking notes. So take notes if you need to.
Awesome. And I believe someone else, Stephen has suggested also stormboard.com that can help with some of these.
Great.
Another tool.
Yeah, there are a lot of online tools that you can use for these kind of things. We do this online working together for a long time already at the company. One of the things that I've used before is the Stormboard. That's just an online post-it sticky note tool, which can be very interesting also for brainstorms in a meeting. And if you actually all have an account in that Stormboard tool, then everyone can just participate, which can also add a lot of fun to it, because you can just drag and drop, write stuff, put your thoughts down, and everyone can directly see it and also just interact with it. So you can directly react on it while others are talking or others are presenting their presentation.
Thank you, Stephen. I think it's important now to be sharing different tools that we use that are going to be helpful. But just as I started the call, we need to make sure that we are creating norms and a foundation for how we're going to work together. It's going to be very disruptive, switching from WebEx to GoToMeeting to Zoom and other technologies that we're all trying to implement. So making sure that your business and the team that you work with is really integrating the work and the technology all at the same time. So talk that through in the next week or so. What exactly are we going to be using? Are we going to Dropbox or are we using Google Docs?
I think one of the things, Avi, not to chime in without raising my hand, but one of the ones that hasn't been mentioned is Microsoft Teams, and it's been an interesting progression for us in trying to get it to work. It's always worked, and I'm not talking about the technical working, but the social adoption rate is being forced this past couple of weeks, and that forcing is interesting. And so the nuances of understanding how to use these tools are specific to those platforms. And some of the things that you were addressing about workflow, where do the docs go, how are you creating docs, may be associated with whether or not you're using something like Microsoft Teams, right? Because obviously there's huge advantages in Microsoft Teams for things like calendar integrations and just a whole host of things. But that integration also comes with a lot of kind of nuances, kind of weird nuances, bugs even that are admitted, that are out there that you need to understand if you're going to use this and not be frustrated. So,
Dave, thanks for bringing up Microsoft Teams. I was just talking with a client this morning who was saying that she has been using that and then has been even using it more now that her team is working remotely. And she said it is flawless for her. It has just really brought all of the work that they're doing together smoothly, easily. So just if you're using Microsoft products, know that you don't need to jump to a different kind of technology. It's all integrated in there.
Yeah, Teams could be its own session.
That's right.
Because of what we're finding now is most of my people are working inside of Teams all day long, and so it's a complete sort of interactive environment. It's not just being used when there's a video conference, right? It's being used for the entire thing, and you can collaborate within multiple teams at the same time, and all sorts of things going on. So we're finding it very productive, quite honestly.
Great.
I want to touch upon, I really like this one comment that Anthony Rolle kind of wrote in the chat box. Even in these trying times, Margo's suggestion of balancing high tech and high touch opportunities is key. We will just have to think about the approach to them differently. So thank you, Anthony, for that comment.
Just to piggyback on the Teams discussion, because we use Teams, and traditionally I had used it just for VoIP calls. I wouldn't even log into the video feature, but I found in the last week or so, I really need to do, like, from a psychological standpoint, I really need to participate in the video, because I'm missing that element of actually being able to see the people that I work with. So while we've been using Teams for a while, it's only been the last couple of weeks where I've really started using the full capabilities of it.
Yeah.
And that brings up a really good point, talking about what are the norms for the meetings that you're having. So if there's a presenter, do you want to have everyone turn off their video so that they're focused just on the presenter? Do you want to have that interaction and connection and have everyone screen up and kind of viewing everyone and viewing a video? So again, setting those norms within your teams and within your meetings, making sure that kind of everyone's on board. And it's odd to have meetings. And so you all are great because everyone is showing their picture. It's wonderful. And the videos. But I've been in meetings where some people are on video, some people have a picture, some people have a blank screen, some people don't even have a name. And just making sure that we all can connect in the right way in the meetings that we're having.